Hey guys, I'm in my Sunday grungies. Just picked up my boy from his friend's house. So, today I want to talk about non attachment. I just watched A Beautiful Mind yesterday. Amazing story. And I really want to go over this story with you guys because I might even make a video and cut it into pieces. But, it's a story about John Nash, the guy who he invented equations that actually the FCC ended up using to describe human behavior and human interaction. And he was schizophrenic. And I think he had a very unique type of schizophrenia where it enabled him to be able to come to the conclusions that he did. Unfortunately, he was seeing a lot of people that were not there. But they were almost like personas created by his mind that enabled him to, connect pieces that he probably wouldn't have been able to connect in any other way. He was like an idiot savant, you could say. But it also meant that he was not grounded very well and he was always in some other place. And so he thought he was, if you guys have seen the movies, I'll let you guys watch it, but I'll just kind of briefly tell you about it. He briefly, he thought that he was working for the U.S. government, and helping them decode Russian texts, right? This is taking place like right after World War, or somewhere in the 60s, I think, 70s. So he believed all these people were real. He actually was like dropping stuff off to a mailbox at a place that didn't have anything to do with anything. It was all in his mind. And so once people understood, they figured this out, they actually grabbed him and put him in a mental institution for a little while because he, couldn't tell what was real. And he didn't know that he was talking to people that weren't real. So at the time, he thought that he was just being, captured by the Russians. And it was all a big conspiracy and, that he was still fine. And his wife came to see him. And she had believed his story. She thought that what he was seeing was real. And she ended up realizing later, she went and checked where he'd been dropping stuff off, and it was all just an old house where it was all illusions of his mind. And when she realized that, she had to confront him about it. And that was the beginning of his healing process, that he was actually delusional. Very powerful when you think about it. When people believe in the delusions around them, there's a long healing process that is involved once you realize the delusions around you that you're believing in for so long, right? Now he's getting drugged, and at first he fought it, right? He fought the delusion. He thought that he didn't want to believe it was crazy, because now you're thinking, oh man, I am not sane. So now you're fighting your own sanity. It's like, am I insane? What's going on? Eventually, he had to completely detach from everything. I would have loved to meet John, I just said his name, Nash. I would love to meet this guy before he died. I think he's dead now. Somebody who was able to detach to that degree, because by the end of the movie, he realized that he couldn't function as a human being with his drugs. And there was a big breaking point in that movie where he started to believe the delusions again after he got out of the mental hospital. And he almost drowned their baby because they had a newborn baby. He went upstairs and he thought somebody was watching it. He wasn't a bad guy. He just thought he was believing in that story again. And because the character in his story told him, hey, they just pulled you away from us for a little while, but we're continue to do this work. And so he thought that he bought into the delusion again. And as soon as his wife comes China, she completely lost it, right? She lost her mind. She's like, I got to get out of here because he's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill the baby. He doesn't know what's real, right? You cannot. If he can't tell what's real, can't be with him anymore. Imagine what that's like for somebody that actually really loves you. So, forgive me, I might get emotional about this part because, there's so many people in our lives that live under false delusions that we care about so much that, right? Anyway, he figured out that this little girl that he was seeing all the time was not aging. And so he ran out in the street right as his wife was getting ready to leave, and he jumped out in front of her car and he said, she's not aging, right? And so they had a meeting with a doctor. The doctor came because she called the doctor right when this happened. And when they met with the doctor, he's like, I got to figure this out. I can't do the medications because, I lose my sexual appetite. I can't perform with my wife. I can't function. I can't do anything that I want to do. And that's basically part of our reality, right? If you're dealing with a mental health issue and you go by way of medication, then it desensitizes you. The desensitizing process is worse than anything. And, he had to get to a place where he was completely unattached to whether or not you were real or not. And at the end of the movie, it shows him coming out of a classroom that he just got done teaching because he was a genius. He was a brilliant man. And somebody new came up to him, and he turned to the person next to him, and he's like, Do you see that person right there? And they're like, yeah. He's like, okay. And then he apologized to the guy. He's like, sorry, I need to know. If you're new, I need to know if you're real or not. And so it was somebody to present him the Nobel Prize, and he explained over the next 5-10 minutes of why, of the things that he had created to help society. And it was an amazing story, right? His ability to non-attach. So this is something that all the old yogis realized, and this is the really pure statement that this makes, and why I would love to meet John Nash in person and ask him some very direct questions. All the old yogis of old understood that everything around us, right? If you look at everything around us, it's feeding off each other. It's a conduit moving energy from one place to another, right? We are all conduits of energy and light. The conduits that you see, organic conduits that you see live the longest, are the ones that are pure conductors, where they're not feeding on their environment as much, if that makes sense. As organisms get more complex, they start to feed on their environment more because they become more self-aware, but they're still buying into a delusion that they need to feed off their environment. Trees and mycelium are some of the two best examples of pure conductors in our biofield. The oldest living organism on this planet is a mycelium in Oregon. It's like 4,000 years old. Trees there's a 3,000-year-old tree in northern Idaho. The trees can be just as old because they just represent a pure conductor where there's no mind getting in the way of moving the energy in their biofield. And so by being able to do that, a tree is something that you see in a mycelium, is something that you see that just follows the natural order so perfectly, when it comes to the seasons, and when it's time to shed leaves, and then there's new growth in the springtime. And a lot of times all of us fight that, right? If you're going, change is a part of life, but you will fight it with your mind by trying to feed off your environment. So all the old yogis realized that they needed to, that this was going on in nature all around them, and to fall into non-attachment, because fall into non-attachment, even the way your body feels, what your mind's telling you, fall into non-attachment. And so, eventually they just got, and by doing so, when you're not in judgment of anything or not attached to any kind of outcome, you no longer are attached to it in your mind. So you're not feeding off of it energetically. If you're thinking about anything negatively in your environment, you're feeding on it. Your mind is feeding on it, and so you're feeding energetically, and that means that you're not connected with your own creative imaginative energy. So, the ones that we see in society now that are the freest people are, people that just absolutely love what they're doing. Musicians, artists, a few movie makers. James Cameron is one that has fallen in love with his work, and he's the most successful at it for that reason. If you're just doing something for money, you're technically feeding off your environment, right? Think about it that way. So I am continuing to create something, but at the same time, when you stop feeding energetically off anything and you stop creating boundaries so that it can't feed off of you, whatever is trying to feed off you gets very upset. So, self-awareness. Sometimes you go into exile. The stories of Elijah, right? I mean, Elijah's story is going into exile. He had to go into exile, master his mind. And then Elijah was somebody that you did not want to mess with, right? He killed 850 people worshiping Baal because it's like they were living in a delusion, right? Anytime you're worshiping some kind of creative thing, whether it's money, sex, drugs, whatever, anything created, you're worshiping that, you're living in some kind of delusion. Feel like you're victimized at all, because your creative energy is blocked, and you're trying to siphon money off of other people or energy off of other people. You're in a victimized mindset. You're like, if I can't take this, then I'm going to not be okay. That idea that you're somehow mortal, right? You're just you're a consciousness experiencing reality through this conductor. And the efficiency of this conductor dictates how well you're able to listen to it and serve it by getting in your creative energy and not only listening to it, but providing for it at the same time. Amazing story, right? A beautiful mind. If you really understand what that guy had to go through to master his own delusions. And his delusions were actually a benefit to him because I think unknowingly, and this is the conversation I would like to have with him, is do you believe that those delusions actually helped you solve the equations that you came up with? Yeah. Think about that, guys. I was going to make this video last night, and things happen. And, things always try to feed off of you, right? And it's unconsciously done. It's never, once you get to a certain place, you can just fall into unconditional love for everybody and everything. And so all of us are trying to be patient with each other to learn how we are not conscious of energetically feeding off of each other. Yeah. So, love you guys. Have a great Sunday, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye. Sorry, I'm going to splice this video onto the end of the last video because I thought of something, and this is another part of that story that is just as important. Not only mastering your own delusions, but having the patience to be with people that are living in those delusions. Think about what John Nash's wife went through. And I was thinking about this when I watched that movie, and that's why I started to kind of get teared up earlier. She fell in love with that man. And he was a beautiful person. If you watch that movie, he genuinely wanted to create something to help people. But he would, and so she believed a lot of his delusions until when she realized that they were delusional. She still doesn't mean that she didn't love him anymore. And there's a part in that movie where she just, after that, I think it was after he almost drowned their baby, she lost it. She started screaming, and you could, Jennifer Connelly does an excellent job of displaying the emotion of, can you imagine the frustration of watching the people that you care about more than anything in this world living in delusion, right? It is what it is. And, feeding off each other when it's totally unnecessary. I mean, and then delusions feed on delusions, right? Because if somebody feels like they can point the finger at you, like you're delusional, there's something wrong with you, then they start feeding on you. All right, what did John Nash have to go through in his personal life as he was trying to overcome those delusions and the judgments that were placed on him by the people around him? If it wasn't for his wife in that movie, and you really understand that he would never have overcome that, because she was the only person that was able to tell him, look, this isn't real. And she was the only one that was patient enough with him, that stayed with him long enough. It's the power of unconditional love. That's why unconditional love is the most powerful thing on this planet. And the ability to detach from what other people are, the way people are looking at you, is so powerful. So I want to leave that with you guys. Tremendous movie. Obviously had an impact on me because there's so much to learn there. And that's the underlying thing that's going on here in our own reality. People living under delusions, otherwise they would be attacking each other in the Middle East. Love you guys. Take care.